Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for the last plenary session before we sum up our 2 days of discussions at 5 o'clock again in this room. And this session is devoted to the soft power of the Baltic Sea region. It's also devoted to research and innovation, which is pretty soft, and it is devoted to the issues of the youth agenda. So we are trying to bridge, in an umbrella type of format, 3 distinct set of issues which are crucial for the success of the Baltic Sea strategy. Please help me welcome our distinguished panelists. Monika Smoleń-Bromska, who is Deputy Minister of Culture in Poland.
Welcome.
Anke Spoorendoonk, who is Minister for Justice, Cultural and European Affairs. Quite a nice mix, I have to say. Warm welcome. Karin Nygård-Skalman, who is Program Manager at VINNOVA. Mikael, who is Head of Department at the Nordic Council of Ministers. And last but not least, Marek from the Baltic University Program. Well, welcome. So we spoke a lot about the digital agenda, but surely the digital agenda is not only about infrastructure. It is primarily, if I may put it that way, about content. And this content is formed by the creative industry, and it's something in which this region has been fairly good as well. And without further ado, I would like to turn to the Polish minister, Monika Smoleń, and ask her about, first of all, the role that she sees for the creative industries in the region, and also about the transformative power of culture in our societies and perhaps beyond, because soft power surely applies both to our own societies and to the outside world. It is something that we can use in both branding our region outside and in trying to have an influence on other countries. So Monika Smoleń.
Thank you very much. I don't know what's
It's up to you. It's a free world
okay,
down here. So you can sit or you can stand. That's up to you.
So probably if you let me, I will stay like that. And first of all, thank you indeed very much for invitation. I think that it's a great chance to talk about the culture as a soft power, and it's great that we can talk about the culture in the meaning of the growth of Baltic Sea region and the cooperation. Because I think that very often it's like that when we discuss, everyone agrees that culture is important, but when it comes to decision making, especially financial one, culture usually is pushed into a margin and neglected. So I'm very happy that it's changing a little bit, and slowly we see that culture has a great potential as a factor of development, as a soft power. Because whenever we would like to build something, we need a solid basis, which cannot be created without mutual trust, without mutual understanding and sharing the same values, and at the same time without culture. That's why I think that cultural diplomacy should play more and more important role in the policy making process, and especially now when we face so many challenges, political and economical in our region, can be one of the most effective tools of creating international relations. Talking about public cultural diplomacy, it's worth to remind a definition presented by Milton C. Cummings, who calls cultural diplomacy as an exchange of ideas, information, art, and other manifestation of culture among nations. I think that this definition of cultural diplomacy perfectly reflects what soft power is, namely an ability to share values and ideas through culture. You asked about creative industries, and I think it's a good question because we probably all agree that nowadays the potential of culture as a factor of development significantly exceeds its link to culture tourism. Although culture tourism is without doubt a great chance for all Baltic Sea regions. And talking about cultural tourism, I don't mean only visiting cultural heritage sites, but also participating in cultural events. And to picture this link between culture and cultural tourism, let me only evoke the case of music festivals in which Baltic regions firmly stands. Open Air Festival in Gdynia, a festival in Katowice, or Roskilde Festival in Denmark, or Bailarm in Oslo, just to name a few. Another, I think, interesting case is a drama, and in this aspect I would like to remind that a few days ago, a Polish city, Wrocław, which held the title of European Culture Capital in 2016, hosted the International Criminal Festival devoted to art of criminal stories, in which Nordic authors are, of course, widely known. And when recalling the European Capital of Culture, it's worth to notice how this competition made the Baltic Sea cities recognizable across Europe and the world. Of course, city of Turku knows it the best after experiencing being cultural capital of Europe in 2011 together with Tallinn. But this year, another two Baltic cities, Umeå and Riga, enjoys also this title that not only makes the city more popular, but also absolutely contribute to social and economic growth of the city and its region. Of course, as you said, Baltic region states are also placed highly in the world ranks of development of the creative industries and especially design. And I think that it's a special place of cooperation between us, exchanging good practices, but also supporting networks, because I think that that creative industries, without doubts, have a great potential to be one of the competitive advantage of this area, and especially now when European Commission plays so big and important role to creative industries and design, the chance to as I said, to invest in this sector and implement the best solution, I think is incredibly important. But talking about a culture as a soft power and the possibility to cooperate in this field in our region, I would like to especially concentrate on the role of culture in social development and strengthening the social capital and cooperation in this field. I think that we all agree that the high quality of social and human capital is a driving force for Europe, and culture is a base for identity, but also for building open-minded and creative society. I think also, especially from the Polish perspective, that is a base for democracy and solidarity. And talking about democracy and solidarity, I would like to mention that literally today, on the 4th of June, we celebrate in Poland the 25th anniversary of the first free elections after the Second World War that started to collapse the communism in Europe. And in fact, it was also a culture that kept the spirit of liberty among the Polish nation and alive and prepared us for democratic changes. To talk about it, let me recall as an example a powerful rock and roll and music movement that flourished in festivals in the 80s, where a young generation could cry out for justice, liberation, and freedom. And I would like to remind that a special documentary related to this phenomena entitled Beats of Freedom was specially prepared for the Polish presidency and had the premiere during that time. Without doubts, nowadays, as I said, investment in people is the most important one. And as I said, we have to invest, I think, in cultural and artistic education to empower especially young people in cultural and creative competences. And I think that, as I said already a few times, cooperation and the common project in this field are extremely important and needed. And I think that, of course, a lot is done in this field, but there is still much to do. And again, as a kind of the example, I will call the Polish experience that in 2013, Polish government adopted 9 horizontal strategies, which reflects 9 challenges for Poland till 2020. So only 9 challenges for the whole policy, and between them is strengthening the social capital. And between these 9 strategies, strategy for development social capital is this one the Minister of Culture is responsible for. In the document, I think it's pretty important because it was very difficult to define in a strategic document what the social capital is, because according to academic definition, social capital is just trust, and trusting people, and the people can cooperate and trust each other. But we in this document define a cultural capital as the ability of individuals and society for cooperation, communication, and creativity, for trusting to each other. And we place culture as a core of all these processes. But to conclude, it is without doubts, culture is a soft power and a great potential for our region. And as I said, I think exchange of good practices and supporting networks and the realization of common project is something what is extremely needed. Of course, Baltic Sea region is rich in cultural diversity and at the same time long tradition of cooperation. I think that Mr. Höysti will mostly likely recall the longest tradition of regional cooperation of Nordic Council of Ministers in the Baltic Sea region, where culture remains one of the most important scope of the collaboration. Currently, of course, we enjoy Finnish presidency of Council of the Baltic Sea States, and under umbrella of this council functions Ars Baltica, Initiative for Cultural Cooperation, and Monitoring Group for Cultural Heritage. Since 2010, Baltic Sea member countries participate also in Northern Dimensionship Partnership on Culture, in which Poland currently has a chairmanship. Regional initiatives on sub-regional and local levels, such as Baltic Sea States Sub-Regional Council and Union of the Baltic Cities, to name a few, also focused on cultural issues. And finally, of course, something what's very important after revision of EU strategy on the Baltic Sea region in 2013, we have a priority area culture, which Poland, together with land Schleswig-Holstein, has a privilege to coordinate. And I think that all these organizations, although acting in the field of culture and within some Baltic format, differs from one another and focus on different aspects like cultural heritage, traditional culture, cultural networking, and creative industries. And I think that something what is the most important, that diversity of these organizations and sectors of cultural cooperation shows the high importance and interest that culture gathers. And it's something what is a good impulse and a good symbol for the future. This great potential can be utilized to build together more competitive and developed Baltic Sea regions, and absolutely we should enhance the dialogue on cultural cooperation to discuss challenges and of course opportunities we can use in full extent only when we act jointly. And finally, I would like to take this opportunity and thank European Commission and the national contact points and other organizations like Nordic Council of Ministers and Ars Baltica that welcome the idea of priority area culture in the strategy of Baltic Sea. and of course my colleague and from Schleswig-Holstein, Mr. Spoorendoonk, that we support this idea from the start, and finally we have also in this incredibly important for the region document culture as a soft power and the field we can cooperate and we can share our experiences, but the most important, as I said, face challenges and opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've heard that culture can turn countries around, and that the creative sector is a more and more important part of the economy. There are studies showing that in many of our countries, the creative sector is outgrowing such engines of the traditional economy like the financial sector, even in the United Kingdom, which has an enormous financial sector. This is meant to happen in the next few years. If I can ask you one follow-up question, and it's about now how we relate to each other in some of these processes, and can joint branding work, or are we competing with each other as seen from the outside, be it cultural tourism or be it creative industries? Namely, would Poland want tourists from China and India in the future to come to Poland, or would it make sense to have a joint Baltic branding exercise to make sure that our region is attractive and then people pick and choose? And the same applies to creative industries. So Danish design, Finnish design, these are trademarks in the world. Does it mean we are worse off not being from these countries, or can we think of some type of joint branding for creative industries as well?
Well, I think that, of course, that the answer is somewhere in the middle. We should concentrate, of course, on promoting probably our own countries and creative industries and tourism, but in a lot of cases, I think we should think about a common branding, and it's something what I think is especially important in the case of the tourism, because absolutely Baltic states countries are very rich talking about the culture and the cultural heritage, and relatively less known than other European Union countries. And of course, when we think about promotion in Asia and India and such markets, I think it's good to indeed to promote the region and the potential of the region in the meaning of the tourism, creative industries. That's, of course, we have a different level of development. Talking about creative industries in Poland, we are right now implementing some tools to support creative industries. So until so far, we're talking much more about the strategy and how creative industries are important for the Polish economy. Finally, we have statistic which indeed refers that culture and cultural industries is around 5% of GDP in Poland. And right now we are implementing, as I said, common strategies in Poland, cooperation between art universities, which are especially important in creative industry, how to encourage entrepreneurship, to invest in design in the process of the production. So as I said, first of all, we have a lot to learn from each other and exchange experiences, but in some, especially markets, I think it's worth to think about promotion, the whole region and our potential.
Thank you very much. You already mentioned the priority area culture in your earlier remarks, and I would like to ask Anke Spoorendoonk, who is Minister in Schleswig-Holstein. I think I forgot to add that earlier, not to create the impression that you run all of our cultural and judicial affairs. I want to ask you about this cultural dialogue which we are launching today.
Yeah.
What are your expectations? It's up to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I think I will come with my statement here, and I think it's very important to say that we are not just talking about soft power, but real talking about power, and we need this power, and we need this cultural dialogue. And therefore, dear friends of the Baltic Sea Cooperation, I really welcome the opportunity to speak to you at this year's annual forum of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. The government of Schleswig-Holstein and I myself personally attach great importance to cooperation in the Baltic Sea region, and we've been doing so since the very beginning of the cooperation since some 20 years ago. The EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region is providing us with a great opportunity to place the Baltic Sea cooperation within a joint political framework, provided that we succeed in involving all states bordering the Baltic Sea, including the non-member countries, Russia and Norway, as equal partners. We need to seize this opportunity. The Polish Ministry of Culture and National Heritage and my ministry in Schleswig-Holstein, you heard it already, have been joint coordinators of the strategy's priority area culture since February 2013. Our current session's heading is the soft power of the Baltic Sea region, foundation for smart growth. And I told you my secret, I don't think it's just a soft power, I think it's really a real power, and we need this power for smart growth. We can draw considerable social and economic benefits from culture and creativity. Culture is one part of the Baltic Sea region's soft power and real power, and culture, in addition, constitutes the creative power of the Baltic Sea region. My colleague from the Polish Ministry told you about the necessary power of creativity, and now I think it's important to give a presentation on how we intend to contribute to this smart growth through our activities within the priority area culture. Ladies and gentlemen, as Minister for Culture, and I have some other items in my ministry, I will not tell you why it is so, but I think culture is a very, very important part of my ministry. As Minister of Culture, I fiercely believe that strengthening and promoting culture is of great value in itself. But as an economically minded politician, I'm naturally also aware of the fact that culture and creative industries represent a booming economic sector. We heard about the figures from the European Council. I'll not come with them again. But I'll just summarize. Culture and creative industries function as an important catalyst for innovations in various other sectors of the economy. Culture and the creative industries also provide important stimuli for the development of our social life and the sustainable development of our society. One aim of our work within the priority area culture is to take advantage and to exploit these so-called spillover effects. Furthermore, culture, just like an attractive natural environment, is an increasingly important quality of life factor, influencing a region's positioning in the competition for firms, jobs, and people. In so doing, culture contributes to prosperity and to growth. Promoting culture and the creative industries in the Baltic Sea region is one of the overarching goals of the activities we pursue within the priority area culture. And furthermore, we wish to make culture and creative industries in the Baltic Sea clearly visible. Some other objectives we've set ourselves within the priority area culture are the following. We wish to preserve and prominently display the region's cultural heritage. We wish to strengthen the region's cultural identity. These two aspects are playing a minor part in the event today. And we wish to contribute to making the structures of the cultural cooperation in the Baltic Sea region more efficient. And this, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the initiative that we could like to launch today here in Turku. we would like to initiate and establish a dialogue on culture in the Baltic Sea region. And the first dialogue will start today, subsequent to this session as one of the parallel working streams this afternoon. You are cordially invited to participate in this dialogue. Our aim is to bring together the players from the Baltic Sea region who are active in cultural policy and in BSR cultural cooperation in order to discuss shared interests. We want to discuss common concerns and possible joint projects. In our dialogue, we will be bringing together players from different political levels. A representative of the Union of the Baltic Sea, of the Baltic cities represents the local level. A representative of the Baltic Sea states sub-regional cooperation is here for the regional level. And representatives from the Council of the Baltic Sea states and the Northern Dimension Partnership on Culture represent the national level. The Secretary General of the Baltic Sea Parliamentary Conference represents the parliamentary level, and representatives of the Nordic Council of Ministers, the Ars Baltica Initiative, and the Priority Area Culture supplement the group and stand for the BSR level. We thus are following the multi-level government's approach to use the language of the politicians. You know, we talk much about multi-level governments. But what we wish to achieve is, in so doing, is more important. Our aim is to bundle cultural policy forces in the Baltic Sea region to define common interests and objectives in a first step, and then to decide which of these common interests and objectives are most successfully pursued and achieved jointly rather than individually. Let me give you a couple of examples to illustrate the direction such a dialogue might take and to which projects it might lead. If we work together to achieve a better visibility of culture, cultural heritage, and the creative industries in the Baltic Sea region, we will accomplish more and be more noticeable than if we go alone. If we implement projects and conduct activities simultaneously on all political levels, for example, demonstrating the value of culture and creative, then we will be much better in the future. If we raise cultural policy demands jointly, we will be more successful than if we launched individual lobbying initiatives. I'm thinking, for example, of the urgent need to call for improved financial framework conditions for cultural projects in the Baltic Sea region. But it's not just about cultural policy. When implementing common objectives, it's the cultural projects which are in the center of intention. And in this context, it's essential that the cultural players, cultural organizations, and the private sector be involved in addition to the representatives from the political, administrative, and scientific communities. Dialogue is the soft power of the Baltic Sea cooperation, and I have said sometimes now that I don't really see it as a soft power, because we need concrete projects to go further with this Baltic Sea cooperation, with this priority area culture. So let's work together for a creative Baltic Sea region to our mutual benefit. Thank you very much.
Minister Spoorendoonk, thank you very much for sharing with us your hopes and expectations for the cultural dialogue. And if I can ask you a question which relates to the theme of our session, soft power as a foundation of smart growth, to what extent do you think, and this will link us to the research and innovation agenda that we'll discuss shortly, to what extent do you think the cultural dialogue that you are launching today would feed into smart growth-related issues on the agenda? I mean, is it culture understood as fulfillment, enrichment, and all that, or is it culture geared towards serving the purposes of smart growth?
Well, we need both approaches. We need the approach that culture is important for smart growth, for innovation, and for development in our society. And I think it was very good to say we need a cultural educational approach as well. We work with this approach in Schleswig-Holstein. We need the creative competences, not just for the working market, but we need this for the society as well. And therefore, I can say culture is important for growth in the society, culture is important for identity, and culture is important because we need to know about each other. We have a very different history in the Baltic Sea region, and we can't just forget our history, but we need to work with it, and we need to look forward. We need to say, well, this is our history, and now we want to combine, join forces, combine our strength, so that we can have a good regional development in the Baltic Sea area. I think that's for me a very important approach.
Yeah. Before we transition into the section discussing research, development, and innovation, while you both were speaking, both Monika and Anke, it reminded me, Richard Florida has published several books on the creative class, mentioning the importance of 3 T's: technology, talent, and tolerance. And I was starting to translate some of the discussion on culture and the creativity into this third aspect, the cultural awareness and openness and tolerance of each other's abilities and how perspectives and how we approach things. And I'm just wondering if you could comment on that, because yesterday we heard a lot about the Baltic Sea region is particularly impressive and attractive because of the combination of deep technological knowledge and talent that has a breadth in their abilities, is what we heard yesterday. And I'm wondering if you also see kind of similarities in the thoughts of Richard Florida with this combination, and if you see culture in the sense of cultural awareness and different perspectives, or could you comment on if there are any connections between the cultural dialogue that you're hoping to start up and cultural awareness and how it fits into?
Well, this cultural awareness is necessary if you want a good technology and a good innovation. Then you must have a cultural awareness. Mm-hmm. But I think we also need cultural awareness if we want to strengthen our society as a whole and the democracy in our region, because people attending cultural events, people with cultural activities, they are good citizens because they want to be a member of the society, and therefore culture is not just something for Sundays. It's not just something that's nice to have. It's very essential for us, and I think the future of the Baltic Sea region has to do with this cultural awareness.
Mm-hmm. Monika, would you mind commenting on your perspectives?
Well, I fully agree. It's what I said about social capital. It's that we are fully aware that the culture is not important only for culture. And it's not only about cultural competences, but culture is important also for this, what I was talking about, for the ability for cooperation, for trust, for open mind, and for tolerance. And according to some even economic research, the strong social capital in the future will be one of the most important tools of development, not only economical and not only economical indicators, but social capital as this ability of people for trusting each other, for working for common goods. And I think that in this aspect, culture is incredibly important. It's why I said that cultural education is extremely important, as I said, not only for culture, but for development of the society and for the growth of the society.
Yes, I think it's a wonderful lead into our next section of speakers. Thank you very much, both of you, for your perspectives. Our next section of speakers, we're turning a little bit into the research, development, and innovation line of the soft power. And when we first were presented with the session heading of soft power, and I've been working with innovation for many years and have never heard it been placed under that particular heading. It was a bit confused, and then I attended at the beginning of the Political State of the Region report, where it was also mentioned as cooperation on research and innovation projects is a form of soft power. It's all about this cooperative aspects. It's finding the areas on which you can cooperate, which can lead you to moving forward. And I completely agree with what both of you have concluded of social capital being a kind of a core at the heart of cooperative projects in any area, and particularly with research and innovation. And with that, I'd like to introduce Karin Nygård-Skalman, who is a program manager at VINNOVA and is one of the priority area coordinators of the innovation area of the strategy, talking to us today a bit about both the research and innovation cooperation activities.
Thank you. I just want to start with reassuring the ministers here that we're actually working a lot with culture activity, at least in the project that I, myself and Emily has been running for the past 5 years. We realized that in order to even achieve anything, we had to go back and start with 1 week of cultural wellness with people from the Baltic Sea in order to get anywhere. So I think it's actually the social awareness and building of trust is the key assets to get somewhere at all, even though we have a lot of technical knowledge. Because that leads me into what I plan to say. And it's actually, we need innovation, absolutely. Not only in terms of development of new technology, new services, but also in terms of new ways of collaboration, as you just heard. And I would like to point out something very specific, is the bonus research program and the flagship program BSR Stars that I've been leading for the past 5 years has actually, it's an excellent example of how this can be done. Because these two networks have evolved from different sectors, completely, one from basic research and one from innovation, and but have now created a new set of innovative projects. So these projects, it is actually 13 of them, they just started, and we are with excitement waiting for their results, because this is a combination of different ways of looking at things. And I'm sure that, I'm sure that there are many similar projects in the Baltic Sea region strategy that could actually be discovered and that we could talk about. But if going back to we need to have a sustainable development in innovation. It's really, really important to create this collaborative force and a sustainable development. And in order to do that, we have to have strongholds in each country, and we have to work with what we call triple helix constellations. And I think you've heard those from Christian Ketels earlier. Sometimes you put them together in clusters, sometimes they are innovative milieus, and sometimes they are in some other kind of networks. And it's actually increasingly important to mobilize these actors in every country to make them work together if we're going to become really, really strong. It is, what I'm saying is it's necessary to have this triple helix in true action for sustainable development. And not only in one country, they have to be strong in different countries. And as we know, the culture differences, the knowledge and the competence differs in different countries. So the combination here has to be smart, and we have to agree on what we're really going to work on. So the grand challenge concept is really very good to work with. And also this is something that unites us. We have to have a clean sea. We have to have take care of elderly population as the rest of Europe. But we can really work on an issue that we think are important here. And one of the examples, except for the ones I just mentioned on the bonus innovation call that was launched in 2012, 2013, together with all the countries around the Baltic Sea, we also had been running a project for the past 4 or 5 years which is called Stardust, and it's financed by the Baltic Sea Region Program. And here we have matched together. One of them is you can see here on the board, is called Marsen. It's actually focusing on solving some of the challenges for the Baltic Sea and in the water. And here you have actors from almost 10 countries, because we're also including Norway and Iceland in these participations. And in the beginning, they sort of had to agree on what kind of issue are we going to solve? How can we agree on this and with so many partners? And then after a lot of struggle, they realized that maybe we should work a little, we keep up the strategic partnership, but we work a little different with different things. So some of them work with energy, some work with more with the green corridors, and some others focused on lightweight ferries and so forth. But they still kept on a sort of a strategic partnership here, which I think is one of the key assets in getting a stronger innovation movement forward. So what do I want to say here is that I think in order for us to get stronger in innovation power, we need these soft tools very, very much. We need to have a stronger collaboration. And but looking at from a governmental side, it is extremely important, of course, that we promote and put scientists and researchers into sort of stakeholders, into conferences and different events, that we introduce projects that can sort of solve the policy issues that we have, and also try to help create the agenda for these projects, and then also to create programs. And there is a new programming period here for EU, both nationally and on the EU level, that they walk hand in hand. I think one very important issue is the transnational component for the ERDF funding, if I want to mention that. There is an issue here that you actually can work with each other using this funding mechanism. So support funding is another issue, but that is not enough, because I think as a policymaker, we can make a difference. If we really engage each other, we try to work with innovation tools, using the cultural experience that actually exists. We can stimulate this partnership, we can mobilize them, and we can, of course, finance them, which we do a lot, but we can also use the platform that we have here. It is what I would call a rocket launch pad, and I think we as policymakers, innovation agencies, can make a difference in making these things work. Thank you.
Thanks, Karin.
Mm-hmm.
Before Mikael comes to the stand, I had a quick question for you, just raising one of the things that you mentioned just at the end, that funding was not enough. And when we think of policy programs, especially in the area of research and innovation, it's a lot of funding programs. And you were mentioning that soft tools to catalyze the cooperation. If you could elaborate a little bit on that, what kind of soft tools are you referring to?
Yes, we start with the one that the sort of culture awareness. I think we had to spend at least 3 days in sort of trying to understand the different cultures in different countries, and also the driving forces and how to communicate with each other. There could be sort of looking around in the world and see how do we utilize this intelligence, business intelligence, and how can that be utilized in different countries at the same time. We have booth camp, I would say. We sort of put people in a camp for 1 week at the Copenhagen University from different countries around the Baltic Sea that were developing new tools, new machinery. It was from the industry, it was students, and it was policy people, and this type of tools that can be sort of creative and help the people move forward.
Yeah.
Peer reviews. Yeah, there's a huge, I mean, I think we have a list this long with a lot of softwares and soft tools that can be used to increase and catalyze these kind of activities.
Yeah. I think it's nice to highlight that it's not just funding, or funding is not enough. Thank you very much. So without further ado, we're going to bring Mikael Höysti to the podium. I hope I didn't massacre your name too badly.
Nope.
Mikael is Head of Department for Culture and Resources. And this was a wonderful title, Culture and Resources of all kinds, at the Nordic Council of Ministers. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's a fun combination of culture and resources, containing gender equality and fisheries and agriculture and foods and so forth. So it's a very exciting department. Thank you for having this opportunity. I'm going to try to give a look upon how the Nordic Council of Ministers sees the soft powers and also through a few examples what we mean by it and what we could do to perhaps evolve and improve it. So, ladies and gentlemen, and the ministers, the Nordic Council of Ministers has, since 2009, been strongly committed to the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region and has incorporated it into its own strategies for cooperation with the Nordic, all the neighbor countries in the Baltic Sea region. The Nordic cooperation between the 5 Nordic countries and between the NCM, the Nordic Council of Ministers, and its neighbors is developed and implemented through networks. That is, networks between civil servants, between researchers, businesses, between NGOs, and so forth. The networks of the NCM are rather unique in the Baltic Sea region, as they cover 5 Nordic countries, the 3 Baltic countries, and northwest Russia. The networks make NCM one of the strong soft powers in the Baltic Sea region. Soft power can contain a strong mobilizing power, and in the NCM's work with the European Union strategy for the Baltic Sea region, the networks have been crucial. As a consequence of the NCM's engagement in the strategy, the networks today also include partners from Poland and Germany, as the ministers kindly mentioned, and we are very much appreciative of that cooperation. The networks that we have been used in the implementation of a number of NCM-led flagship projects and in NCM contributions to other projects. The main fields of activity have been forestry, fisheries and aquaculture, genetic resources, veterinary contingency planning, environment, energy, culture and creative industries, internal market, and a number of other issues. And I have to refer to the ministers about cultural part of it. As one example of such a cooperation is indeed in the field of culture that was added to the action plan in 2013. We think this is a strong and vital sign that both opens up for possibilities at the same time that it obligates. The Nordic Council of Ministers follows and contributes to the process of inclusion of a cultural dimension to the European Union for the strategy of the Baltic Sea region. And in October 2013, the NCM launched its flagship project, Culture for Sustainable Development in the Baltic Sea region. The overall purpose of the project is to build knowledge on culture as a driver for sustainable development, and through showcasing and demonstration, encourage multiplication of good, best, and next practices. It also strives at including non-cultural stakeholders to demonstrate the fundamental importance of culture for sustainable development, regional cohesion. The cooperation in the field of culture is one example of how the networks of the Nordic Council of Ministers can be used across sectors and traditional fields of cooperation. As for many other stakeholders of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, the majority of the Nordic Council of Ministers' efforts relate to the strategy, however, being developed starting from our existing networks. We have very much been working with the usual suspects, and some of the projects might even have been realized without the framework of the strategy. In my opinion, the time has now come both for us and for other organizations involved in the strategy to look into how we can more actively facilitate cooperation and develop new networks that can deliver solutions in line with the objectives of the strategy. NCM is already one of the major soft powers of the region, but for the Baltic Sea region as such, to strengthen its soft power, we need to do more to facilitate cooperation and push for more concrete action and not just to coordinate. The Nordic Council of Ministers has, since 2013, together with the CBSS, the Council of the Baltic Sea States, taking the leadership for the horizontal action on sustainable development and bioeconomy. The NCM is in charge of the bioeconomy component, and we are striving to take a very active approach into this work. Bioeconomy is an important priority, not only in the Nordic cooperation, but also in the European Union. The role of the NCM is developing a sustainable bioeconomy was confirmed by the prime ministers of the 5 Nordic countries at their meeting last week in Iceland. The Nordic Council of Ministers has taken on the leadership role for speeding up the process of realizing a sustainable bioeconomy in the Baltic Sea region. As horizontal action leader, our aims are to provide a platform for dialogue and for creating synergies in action among public and private bioeconomy stakeholders from throughout the Baltic Sea region. We aim to create a regional awareness about and joint pursuit of the Baltic Sea region's great potential to become a global leader in sustainable biomass production and consumption. We also aim to identify and incubate a number of joint regional actions under the title 10 Steps Towards Realizing a Bioeconomy for the Baltic Sea region. Each of these actions will be of particular importance to realize the transition towards sustainable bioeconomy in this region. In the NCM's work with bioeconomy, we also stress the importance of building bridges between different interests, sectors, and objectives, as well as between EU members and non-members. For instance, we need to bridge the gap between what is often conflicting objectives in environmental policies and specific primary sector policies. We need to work actively to include Russia in the work by inviting Russian stakeholders and engage them in the dialogue. Following the example of the work with bioeconomy, my main point is that we all, as stakeholders of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, do have a fair chance to move the success of the strategy to a higher level. But it means that we continue to move away from coordination to facilitation of cooperation. This will create a stronger soft power. I acknowledge that a lot of organizations and national authorities involved in the strategy have already done a tremendous job in implementing the action plan of the strategy. I think, however, that we should also look forward and see how we develop the strategy further and how we engage new actors. This is to ensure that the strategy doesn't just become one more or less empty framework for coordination. I have therefore used this opportunity to reflect on ways to use soft power to mobilize the work with the EU strategy for Baltic Sea region, and in this way energize the work with the strategy. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Mikael, thank you very much. If I was to play the role of the devil's advocate here, I would ask you if you could tell us more about why in this flagship area that you spoke about, in the flagship area of the bioeconomy which you spoke about, why exactly we need trans-border cooperation in the Baltic Sea region? What is the value added when you seek political attention, when you seek funding? You surely have to answer this question. What is it that we can jointly create on top of what is going on in our individual countries?
Well, one thing is, of course, of creating a greater awareness, and I think the problems with sustainable development are not unique to all these countries, but they are common to us all. So I believe there is a common platform for working together, and I think there are a lot to be learned through these networks. There are a lot to exchange ideas and so forth, and that is also being done. But there has also, and a lot of coordination is still needed, of course, because we have to see that, and that's one of the working networks and cooperatives, is that we don't overlap each other, that we do same things. We can perhaps lift the national agenda to a broader attention and to a higher level, and that's I think one of the more important things of working with together in this for instance bioeconomy.
I wanted to follow up as well with this. It seems that both you and Karin were speaking a little bit similarly on the need to facilitate the cooperation and mobilize these different actor groups and different perspectives in order to make progress on pretty concrete issues like bioeconomy or maritime transport. And I'm wondering if you could give some examples of how, when you talk about mobilizing the network, how?
There are probably a lot of ways of doing that, but the one thing is really to perhaps get new networks that mixes and cross-fertilizes different actors in the field, so that we can get, as in our flagship project in the field of culture that we have, that is culture and sustainability. That culture in itself, how can it work with a more sustainable way, but also what can culture bring into sustainable development. So that's what we're talking about also, that we need new networks, new partners working together in a new way to find new innovative solutions. So I think we have to look at new ways of new solutions, and not so much new coordinations, but solutions that bring us further on.
Yeah, Karin, you wanted to add something?
No, I wanted to add something. Yes, it's also to stimulate new actors to take part. One of those could be like, I think something that we've done together with Nordic Council of Ministers as well. And the strategy is that we've launched what we call the mobilization call, which is called BSR Innovation Express, which is actually a very small amount of money going to actors and trying to join forces and to come up with new ideas. But it's very small amount of money, and that stimulates them to do other things. You can have meetings and so forth. Yeah.
And if I
still follow on, yes.
I might add, that's one way, and a good way, having open calls for projects and so forth. But you could also look at it from the other way, that you have a strategy that you want to implement. So you have to define what do you want to get out of it, and then find the partners and the funding for that. So open calls is one way, but also have another perspective and another to working together.
Maybe this mobilization of different perspectives is a good lead-in to...
It is, to our third theme this afternoon, which has to do with youth. And obviously youth was referred to yesterday when we saw the figures for youth unemployment. And I'm afraid that's how it is nowadays very often portrayed in the debate, as a problem area. Now, how do we get out of that? Sometimes when the government or parliaments try to make an effort, as the Danish parliament did before the EP elections with its controversial film addressed to the youngsters that had to be withdrawn, these efforts don't necessarily create good results. So how do we get the young people involved in this agenda? Marek Szponk comes from the Baltic University program.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak up on behalf of the students of Baltic University program. Very briefly, Baltic University program is the organization that consists from over 200 universities around Baltic Sea. And these universities are collaborating in education for sustainable development. And one of many activities that BUP takes on is to gather students from different countries on the events like this one. I will not talk about growth. We have heard enough. We have also heard a lot about the youth unemployment and young generations that are the future of the region. We, the students of Baltic Sea region, want to have a real influence on the shape of the future that you all talk about. But taking into consideration the recent economic and political crisis, we start to doubt about stability and prosperity of the region that we were constantly assured of while we were growing up. At the last annual forum, EUSBSR in Vilnius, students of BUP came up with a declaration that was pointing out the main problems at the region and solutions and actions that should be taken. The document was then officially given to the commissioner. I will briefly give you the outlook for the problems we identified. Firstly, there is a chronic political disagreements between EU and not EU nations, ideologies and governance systems. Secondly, there is a big amount of projects, strategies and decisions that are not followed by concrete actions which would demonstrate tangible and progressive results. Then, the unclear accountabilities of roles and responsibilities of multi-level governance system. The other problem is contradictory policy goals, the conflict between profitability and sustainability. And the last one is the level of ecological awareness among the citizens and industries at the Baltic Sea region is still not high enough to achieve sustainable goals. We haven't only identified problems, we were looking also for solutions, and I will present a few of them. The first one is we should create awareness through mandatory sustainable development courses at different levels of education. Then we should make sustainable projects profitable by encouraging cooperation between universities and companies. Then we should reinforce international experience exchange within economical sectors to share knowledge, technologies, and practices of sustainability. And last but not least, we should strengthen the current networks of students of Baltic Sea region in order to connect different nations and cultures. The main message we want to spread concerning this annual forum in Turku and the soft power of the region is basically that we, as the young generation, are the real platform for cooperation. This means that we are the key stakeholder for driving the change towards innovation in our region, and we are the future decision makers. Also, the wealth of the region depends on a well-educated population, and what's the most important, only by increased cross-border relations and learning more about each other within the region, we can create the strong Baltic identity and commitment to the region. There is a huge place for improvements when it comes to integration, exchange programs, or joint research projects. We have to remember that before trying to make our region attractive for the rest of the world, we have to work on making Baltic Sea region attractive for ourselves, especially for young generations. To make it more clear, I would like to share with you some of my personal experiences in that field. I had the privilege to be elected for the position of Baltic students representative of the board of Baltic University program, and therefore I had plenty of occasions to meet students from all Baltic countries, exchange views, get to know them better, and feel that we have a lot in common. But what's even more important, we have common goals. But this privilege is still a bit exclusive. There is a very small part of the Baltic students community that have a chance to participate in that kind of projects. We, the young generation of this region, actually do not know each other, and we do not cooperate internationally enough. That is why most of my friends, instead of perceive themselves as the future of this region, they rather see their opportunities in UK or US. Erasmus program showed that there is a way to create European identity among students by giving them the chance to experience other cultures. This is a time to work on our regional identity that will make my generation committed to Baltic Sea region and willing to place their innovative potential here. The feeling of unity should be the strongest of the soft power of this region. During this forum, we have heard a lot about unifying the region through the common goal that is economic growth. We wish to shift the perspective towards more interdisciplinary approach of development that we define as sustainable. Unfortunately, our observation after annual forum, both in Vilnius and in Turku, is that this definition is not the same for everyone. We are here part of the economically orientated discourse, and we miss the key parts of sustainable development, that is environment and society. That is why we would like to actively participate in the future forums, bringing to the table more interdisciplinary perspectives of the young generations. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Marek. We were scribbling with Emily your very concrete ideas, but since I am in this devil's advocate mood today, I think Emily should shout at me. I want to ask you whether what you have said is representative of the younger part of the population in our region as a whole, or are you the enthusiast for the region who remains in minority? And also what you said about growth was very interesting, and I think we should spend a while discussing this because we should understand well what is behind it. I remember a study of the attitudes of young people that was done in Poland 2 years ago, and the conclusion was that the youngsters are what was called the good enough generation. Namely that their aspirations are not as high as the previous generations, that they are more satisfied interacting with each other, more satisfied with community feeling. That's how people explain this phenomenon of city bikes. It's not that you can get from point A to B faster, it's that you are in a community with others who are also into using these city bicycles. So two questions basically. Are you representative? I hope you are. And then what do you think are the attitudes of today's youth more broadly? What you said about growth, I think, signifies a certain change of paradigm. Your appeal for a more interdisciplinary approach to growth. Is different to what we have been discussing, isn't it?
So the first question, although I was speaking a bit of my personal experience, this speech is the result of work of many of the students of Baltic University program. We were discussing this before annual forum started and during the annual forum, so this is not only my words, these are the words of all the students that came here. And answering the second question, the thing is that we actually have no simple answer for what can be better than speaking only about growth. Like, if there would be simple answer, I would start with my speech with that. But the thing is that we are not anti-growth, we are just a bit skeptical about the fact that all discussions, like they're more or less in this conducted in the same language. Like it's translated every time on like economic values, anything we were talking about, and this is, I think, the space, and we need a bit more critical thinking, and I hope I will see it on the next forums.
Thanks very much. I mean, I was asking you this question because there is an ongoing debate about what prosperity means. Most often it is launched by political leaders who do not succeed in achieving growth. So that leads to a certain degree of suspicion that what they really want to do is to turn attention away from GDP figures, which are not impressive, to something else, to show that there is so many more things in life. I don't know if perhaps the other panelists would like to
hop in.
share. Yeah, good.
I feel like you didn't have a cube of sugar in your coffee.
Very good. No, I didn't.
When you were speaking, and you were making very concrete suggestions about the interdisciplinary education and these projects that one could do together with business, which sparked a reminder in me to something that's already ongoing. It was initiated in Finland, in Tampere, the DEMOLA network. And these are projects where business defines the problems they are having, and student teams, interdisciplinary student teams plucked from business programs, engineering programs, design programs, different programs, put together in these teams to solve these problems. And multiple teams are maybe working on the same problem, proposing alternative solutions from this interdisciplinary perspective. And this network has grown from Tampere to all across the Baltic Sea region and also other places in Europe. And I'm wondering your perspective on this kind of activity. Is this something that meets your suggestion? Is this something that should be expanded? Or are there other ways to address your request for more interdisciplinary education? And how could the Erasmus program be complemented to be more attuned to establishing the Baltic Sea region identity?
Okay, so the projects that you're mentioning, of course, they are like very good examples of how to put it in the real life. But this interdisciplinarity, I think, is missing on the many levels of education while we are studying separately. When we are not meeting in interdisciplinary groups to work on some topic, then we are not having a chance even to think out of the box, like not only in our specialty. And again, talking with my personal experience, I'm studying at the University of Economics, so probably my views there are even more controversial. And I can see that business schools, actually, they are still very traditional when it comes to teaching students economy. Like sustainable development is still kind of exotic idea, and we should know about this, but there is nothing to change the present paradigm of economy because of sustainability idea and concept. So when we are studying our own field, our own faculties, then we have not so much chance to think sustainably. And that's why also we think it would be good to implement the mandatory sustainable development courses at different levels of education, also elementary one, like at higher education.
Good, thank you very much. I do remember about my question to the panelists, but would like to bring some of you into the discussion, and there are microphones which you need to use. If you could please introduce yourself, and you'll be first, and this is microphone number 2.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate what panelists are saying. My name is Merle Haruja from Estonia. And one very important topic, which part of what we are speaking here today now, that's the human rights culture. How to be a human being among other human beings. That's for everyone extremely important. And yes, of course, that's possible to say, yes, that's something universal, but that's also human. We are also human beings. And if we speak about education, if we speak about the culture, the human rights, that's extremely important everywhere. But for young generation, and Marek also, I have to say, the next year's summit and forums, one topic in Estonia will be our regional identity. How it look like, that's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, please. Lady here. It's also microphone number 2.
Thank you to all of the speakers. I'm Mia Blomqvist from Åbo Akademi University and very much involved in the Baltic University Program network since 1991 already. I agree with you that the intercultural communication is the only road to communicate it for different tasks. So I'm very happy about this session altogether. And of course, I would like to thank Marek for that we could talk a lot of this, because in fact, you want to have these interdisciplinary courses at all levels. In fact, we have all our training programs within the BUP courses, students' conferences, teachers' conferences, PhD conferences, they are interdisciplinary because we think it's the only way of solving common problems is when you include people from different cultures and different disciplines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone on that side? It's a little bit difficult for us to see, but yes, please. And this will be microphone number 1.
Thank you very much. I will be talking about education again. So I'm really impressed of what Marek said right now. So my name is Sergei Syushenkov. I'm originally from Russia, and I'm PR coordinator at the EU-Russia Civil Society Forum, but also a coordinator of one non-formal education program called Bridget, and being realized here in the region. So we are still small because we started in 2012, and we have Latvia, Russia, and since last year also Lithuania and Estonia, and probably it's what actually the range of our activities will be for the next years, and maybe then Finland, but I don't know. I don't know still. So, but I think, yes, it's very important, this formal education and also interdisciplinary courses, but also non-formal education, and what also my colleague from Estonia told about democratic values, about human rights, and so on. So just it's how we can also provide this knowledge through informal education, non-formal education methods, and also what we do. It is also one of the points of soft power. Yeah, and also this soft power influence also the political power in the end, because some of because this is a network of different programs, and actually one of the participants of such a program on the international level is now about to be one of the coordinators of the EU presidency of Latvia. So that's how it works, from grassroots to the high-level politics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last look around the room. We have 7 minutes, and it wouldn't be cultural to finish late. So if you could make your final comments in a minute and a half, starting with the ministers.
Actually, when I was listening what Marek said, it comes to my mind the movement in Poland, Citizens for Culture. It was actually the most significant social movement after Solidarity, which was awakened in 2009. This movement consists of intellectual artists, but also students, managers, people all of the country, who actually called to politicians for more interest for culture and a bigger budget for culture and more interest for cultural education. And I have to say that they succeeded, because in 2010, Prime Minister of Poland signed agreement with Citizens for Culture, and also because of that, the public spending on culture in Poland, even because of the crisis, are in 2014 and 13 were higher than the year before. So I think that it's a great chance, because we are all aware that culture and education is really important factor, and that's not only the theme of discussion during the conferences, but that society is getting more and more aware how important it is for all of us, and it's very close with that what Marek said, that we need education, we need to invest in culture, in education, intercultural dialogue, not only by discussion, but indeed implement some effective tools. And what Citizens for Culture in Poland did, it's example of taking some initiative by society and having success.
Thank you very much. Ante?
Yes, thank you. I think this discussion has showed us that we, in all our countries and all parts of this Baltic Sea region, we have best practice examples. And it shows me that we are talking about cultural policy, and we are talking about that it is necessary to discuss which parts of cultural policy we will strengthen. We can strengthen going together, join our forces. Which can we solve better when we do it in our region, in the Baltic Sea region, better than doing it individually. That's a main subject for me. And the other point is that we talk about instruments. We talk about which instrument is best when we want to have a good life in our region, if we want to strengthen smart growth. And therefore, I think this open cultural dialogue is an instrument. And thinking about that, we in most of our countries have a demographic change, then this cultural dialogue must also be a dialogue between the generations. We can't just have a young generation saying, well, we missed points here and we need these points, and we can't have the older generation saying, well, we don't know what you're talking about. Therefore, we need to have this intergenerational dialogue as well, and that's culture as well as I see it, because culture means dialogue, means awareness upon what is the heritage of our society, and what we can do if we think creative and as I said before, join our forces.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Karin?
Okay, to build on innovation, which also is a tool for prosperity as all others, I think we need the culture awareness and the education and the cooperation as a tool. And what I've learned now is actually to work more with the culture part here to get into, and also not only use the demo concept which we're actually using, but also I would like to sort of try to find ways of involving also young people in the sort of reference group strategic dialogue when we develop the priority area of innovation in the EU Baltic Sea strategy. So it will be very helpful for us. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Mikael?
Thank you. I'd like to just thank Marek for his excellent speech, and I was glad that you mentioned really this need for cross-sectoral knowledge exchange, and also in education and so forth, and that's what I also mentioned in my speech. So I think there is much to be won by really learning from each other and learning from cross sectors and combining, as for instance, culture and sustainability, and see what we can get from that. And that is one way of getting greater awareness for, let's say, different policies or policy areas to understand each other better.
Brilliant. Marek, you are the hero of the day, but you have to promise us to keep the fire burning.
So as a comment maybe and the final words of me, of course all the education and cultural issues here and interdisciplinarity, these are the key words that should be associated with my speech, but I would like to highlight the very strange position that young generation is right now, because very recently we experienced economic collapse. Now we're experiencing the political kind of collapse in the region, and still it's something very new for us. We were assured while we were growing up that the world is going to be just better, and apparently it's not. And the thing is that we are still talking the same language that we were talking before this all collapses. So we feel that we need to just more critical thinking and thinking out of the box. Maybe it's starting with interdisciplinarity, maybe with something else, but we're just not so sure about the old and traditional values that we're still talking about.
Yep.
That's all.
Yes. It's good to be a little bit constructive criticism, and this is all very good. I've been able to boil down this discussion into 3 points and drawing from some of the quotes from our speakers. One of the first points was that cultural awareness and understanding is core to building social capital and also unlocking creativity and ability to cooperate with one another. And the second main point is that in research and innovation activities, funding is not enough. Soft tools are really necessary to mobilize networks and engage new actors with different perspectives. That was another point that was brought up in the second set. And then from the youth perspective, this importance of interdisciplinary education, but with an eye on sustainable development, that we need to start talking in different terms and consider different concepts when we're talking about growth and all of this, that it's growth not at the expense of other things, that it's growth inclusiveness, it's with sustainable, et cetera, and also being able to work in projects across cultures, across generations, across countries, across disciplines. I think we've had a number of good ideas to work on going forward, and we've heard the initiation of new cultural dialogues and inviting the students to be part of the PANO advisory board, and all of this is really good. And now?
Can I just have a quick comment to Marek, because I just can't resist. It's because I was his age in 1989, and it is 25 years today, as we have heard before, and the world was literally collapsing in a very different fashion to the crisis of the last 5 years, and yet we saw the light in the tunnel. And it took years. It took several years of hard work, and it wasn't certain that things would straighten up. I mean, in '89 there were thousands of Soviet troops on Polish territory that only left in 1993, 4 years later. So I keep your fingers crossed. I keep my fingers crossed for you, and that you will manage to find good prospects. Huh?
Yeah. Don't give up hope.
Yeah.
We're old, but we're not that horrible. All right, thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the closing plenary at 5 o'clock.
Thanks very much. Yeah.